Hello everyone, this is Javiera for javierjando.com, and today I'm here with Fernando Aguiar. He's a body psychotherapist, a psychologist, and the owner of the website essentialpsychology.org. So we've been talking about really interesting topics, most of them regarding relationships and sexuality. So when I asked him, what are your main areas of research? He said, I'm researching death, sex, and manhood. He's really passionate about what he's doing, so we decided to create this interview, which mainly is going to be about the stages of sexual awakening, and I found this topic to be really, really interesting. I'm not someone who knows much about it, so I'm really thrilled to bring this interview to all of you. So, Fernando, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Javiera. It's a pleasure to be here. So if we're going to talk about the stages of sexual awakening, I can just give an overview of what that is so people know what we're talking about.
Got it. Perfect.
So I decided to develop these 4 stages because I was trying to work with people, one-on-one and workshops on that topic. And I realized that people come from very different spaces regarding the sexual awareness and how they're connected to their bodies and how they relate to the other. And then also understood that if not everyone, most of us didn't get any proper sexual orientation as we were growing up. As kids or teenagers, we were kind of stumbling along the way trying to find some information with no one really there to guide us, to answer questions. There are a few lucky people who had that, maybe the father, the mother, or uncle or auntie. But in general, we have very poor sexual education in our societies.
And this is for men and women.
That's for men and women, yeah. And yeah, totally. And I think maybe it's changing now, but although it looks different, sometimes it looks that men have more freedom or more possibility of exploration. Apparently they know more, but they are as lost as anyone else. What they get mostly is a very stereotypical approach to sexuality.
Which comes from the movies?
Or? It comes from movies and culture and just seeing, how the adults behave, how the other men do, and how they behave in life and with other women and with the partners and things like that. So we get a very, very limited view of what relationships and sexuality is. So I thought I wanted to really help people understand, maybe for the first time in their lives, understand more about sexuality and relationships and how to move along to have a more fulfilling experience with their partners, whether men or women. So I put together these 4 stages, which are actually 3, because the first stage is a very, very repressed stage. Is mostly if you're in a very repressive culture where there is no space at all to any sexual expression, exploration, self-learning or anything. So we could compare this person with a person that is illiterate, totally illiterate in relationships, sexuality, self-awareness. But then the next stages, they do more with the general people, and especially the second stage, which we could call the first stage, actually, when you start learning about sexuality. That's where most of the people are. They know some, they have explored some, but they don't know much what to do with it. I mean, they've been doing, of course, people have been having sex for forever. Not necessarily in the best way they could in terms of creating more growth, fulfillment in their lives. So the stages of sexual awakening is a map to help people see where they are in their sexual loving development, awakening, and then to help them move through to a more fulfilling experience.
So if I'm understanding more or less the structure of it, would you say that the stage number one, as you were saying, it starts as not knowing anything about how to relate in sexual relationships, and then it will develop into more expanded stages?
Yeah. So
what would be the next phases of it?
Okay, so you get this person that knows nothing about sexuality, and then start discovering sexuality, and then discover sexuality to a certain point, which is kind of built in the system. We are designed to make babies, so we kind of know how to use it to some extent. But to go further, there must be a choice. You got to choose to, okay, I want to learn more about this. I want to develop this. I want to harvest all the potential in this experience. It's not only about having an orgasm and that's it. Well, okay. How long it lasts? Half an hour, lucky 1 hour, the orgasm itself, how long? Half a second, 1 second, and then most of people, that's how far they go. Right. To go further, you have to make a choice. I want to go deeper into that. So the next stage is the first stage I call disconnection. It's you're disconnected from your sexuality, from your body, from what happens within you. The first stage, the second stage is discovering. So that's when you're discovering about sexuality. You explore, you learn about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, what the other person likes, and how the other body work and how you work together. Then you make a choice. I want to go deeper. And then the next stage is deepening. So you go deeper. You learn more about sexuality. You learn more how your body works. You learn how to start moving the sensations. You become really aware of your body. The orgasm is not concentrated in your genitals anymore. It's coming to your whole body. You're having a full experience of being with the other person. It's not so much about having sex anymore, but connecting with the other person. So you want to open your heart. The connection is more important than the sex itself. The sex is there, the sexual activity is there, but without the connection, you always feel that something is missing. So you value the connection more than only the sexual interaction.
And apparently, for what you're describing, it seems like the sexual encounter is going to be even better.
At
a physical level as well.
Because it's like using, how can I put that in a metaphor, a good metaphor? Is how much of the capacity of the system you're using. So you have this Ferrari, this amazing powerful car, but you're driving on the second shift. You're not taking half of the power of it. But then when you include more things, like when you're not only focused on your genitals and your pelvis and the sexual contact, physical sexual contact, when you open up for the heart connection with the other person, the intimacy, then you're expanding the system capacity. So there's more space for pleasure, there's more space for joy, more space for fulfillment.
Well, I can totally see how relevant it is what you're actually teaching. Or guiding.
And the sexual experience, when two people come together and have a sexual experience, that's when they express most clearly their fears, their powers, their strengths and weaknesses. If I want to really learn about a client of mine, I just need to ask them how they do sex, what happens, how they deal with it, and they will describe me how they deal with their whole life. Not only with the sex, but with the sex is very clear. It's a very punctual moment, a very specific moment that all of us, our strengths and weaknesses, they come very clear. The same ones that we have in life. So if we can change that, in that interaction, that sexual interaction, that will impact the whole life. The relationship is a big thing for us. We love relationship. It gives so much purpose and meaning to our lives, and it's such a powerful way to grow together. That cultivating beautiful, powerful relationships, it reverberates. It will benefit the kids, and it will benefit the family around us. And that it's a ripple effect of goodness and awesomeness.
I totally agree with what you're saying. So, from what I'm getting, the first stage would be being disconnected, right?
Yeah.
And someone who doesn't really know how sex works and everything.
Yeah.
So the second stage would be discovering, as
Yeah.
you were saying. The third stage would be deepening into the connection.
Exactly.
And which one would be the fourth stage?
The fourth stage, I call it dominion. To have the dominion of your sexual energy. So now...
So it's like mastery.
You're mastering, yeah. You're mastering your sexual loving energy. So you are deeply in touch with your body, with your whole body. You're deeply in touch with your heart, so you're deeply connected with the other person. And now you expand beyond the two of us. Yeah? Beyond you and your partner, beyond your own needs, beyond your partner needs. You expand to the encounter between the two of you. You expand to the level of what's gonna bring more happiness to this person with me. What's gonna bring more happiness to the world around me. And that's okay, we are talking about sex, two people having sex and thinking about that. But that's where you go. That's where you go, because you're opening up the connection with your soul. And your soul goes beyond. I'm calling soul, you could call other names. I like the word soul.
Yes.
But we could call it spirituality. We could call transcendence. Several words. I like soul. Short. Clear.
That's 4 letters, no confusion.
No confusion. So you're opening up your soul, and then at this point, you can choose what you do with your sexual energy. So you're coming from a more impulsive sexual behavior. When you're discovering, you might want to have several partners. You might, you want to explore this new thing. But as you deepen and as you master it, you don't need that. There's commitment. You choose commitment, because within commitment, that's when we can go very, very deep within ourselves. You can perceive that very clearly. In the beginning of a relationship, you don't show everything to the other person. You're a bit scared what they will think, how they will judge you. Maybe if you have parts of you that you judge as bad, you won't show that. You might not cry openly in front of the other person. You might not get angry openly in front of the other person. You might not show your fears, your doubts, you hide all that. And only in a committed relationship, you get to the point where you trust enough to show those things. And that's so freeing, to have someone in the world that knows you so deep. Because as you deepen the sexual connection through the heart and then into your soul, a lot of things will come up. Lots of things will come up. A lot of fears will come up. A lot of ugly, messed up, distorted things that have been keeping inside of you will come up. And if you don't trust enough the other person to bring that into the space and hold together whatever comes up, it's very hard to go that deep.
Wow.
So let's say you might be in that interaction and your heart start opening and you feel really scared, because when your heart really opens up, you feel that you might die, or you might that's too much, it's gonna rip you apart, or the person will see you're in such a raw and vulnerable space that they could kill you, they could hurt you so deeply. So if you don't trust in a very deep level, I'm not talking about a conscious level, I'm talking about deep level. If you don't trust on that deep level, that openness cannot happen.
Oh my God. This is amazing. Like, I really, really love how many key aspects of our own self-discovery you're tapping into right now. I want to ask you, generally speaking, where would you say most people are? Which state?
Most people are in the stage 2, discovering.
Right. Just before connection, right?
So most people like in the world, they are in discovery. So even though they might have been active sexually for 20-30 years, they still discovering, because what they still focus on self gratification. They still focused on just the orgasm by itself. That's their whole purpose, is to have an orgasm, or amazing, the most explosive orgasm possible. They still into this very doing aspect of sex. Doing. There's an effort to reach something. So most people are there. Even though they might have studied, they went to explore Kama Sutra and stuff, but the mindset is focused on self gratification.
Right.
And then you have some people that have moved to the next stage, or are in the process of moving to the next stage, and those are the people that are opening their hearts. And they are not so focused on the self gratification, but they are much more focused on the connection. So that's what the key point of this the third stage is, the connection, is the intimacy you build with the other person.
And Fernando, as someone who runs workshops and you also do one-on-one sessions, how do you work or walk with someone from stage 2 to stage 3, there is connection? How do you help people to open their hearts to this space, heart space?
Okay. So so there are several aspects to each stage that we can look into. And what happens in general is that no one is just like 100% one stage. So most people will have, 50%, 80%, 6% stage 1, 20% stage 2. And then we have to map what are the aspects of stage 2 or 3 that they already have developed, and what are the aspects of the stage 3 that they still in stage 2.
Right.
So they might have developed a much inclusive, comprehensive self-awareness. They are aware of their bodies, but they are not yet opening the heart, as you asked. So we are going to. Then I have to explore with the person in which way the heart is closed. So we can work psychotherapy-wise, exploring. What happens to the heart? What are the things what are the fears of opening the heart? And how is that connected with the person, life and beliefs and values? And also, we, as a body psychotherapist, we will do exercises to bring awareness to the heart and the chest and the tension and what's there that prevents you from really opening up, to really connect deeply with someone, with intimacy, and be so open and vulnerable. So I would go exploring through that, and the techniques I would use depends on what the person brings up.
Individually, right. Yeah. And for someone who might be listening to this interview, either they are in a relationship or not, how would you say it's a practical way or a simple way to start connecting with our hearts and start opening that space of intimacy?
Okay, that's a good one. So if you want to start today, open your heart.
How do you start today opening your heart?
Start today opening your heart. You can bring awareness to the heart, to the chest, center of the chest. Just bring awareness there, breathing into there. Just awareness is the key, the first point. Without awareness, you can do anything.
Right. And when you say awareness, you mean like feel if it's how it's beating, if it's warm, if it feels contracted, or if you have any pain, like feeling physically.
Feel into it physically. Yeah. Feel how your breathing happens into it. How if it's constricted, if it's expanded. Feel if you feel inside, or if it's just kind of empty inside. Just bring awareness, physical awareness, sensations, feelings. So that would be the first stage. And then you can start bringing into your consciousness people that you care about, that you love. And then you feel a shift happening there in your chest, in your heart area. Just bringing in front of you in your visualization, in your imagination, bringing someone that someone that is important to you, someone you say you love, and see how it changes, and stay with that feeling. Yeah? Maybe a warmth, maybe a tingling, maybe a subtle sensation happening in the center of your chest. Stay with that as long as possible. Let that expand, let that open up. And when you are with someone, when you are with the other person, instead of thinking, what can I get for me? Ask yourself, what can I give to that person? What can I give? How can I give my heart to that person? And that's a more scary step.
Yes.
But start with awareness.
I love it. That's really practical, and that will definitely feels like it's opening the heart immediately. One thing that I would like to ask you as well is, how do you deal with fear? Because you mentioned that, and I've experienced this myself, of course. When you start opening the heart, it's feel of being hurt, feeling like you're more vulnerable, and that's a fact. But that's the beauty of it as well. So how do you personally deal with your own fears, for example, and how do you teach others to deal with that particular aspect of this?
Okay. The way I deal with my fears is not fearing them. Not fearing my fears. Big one. To be with, allow the fear to come up, not being identified with it. So I can express a lot of fear, and I can have a lot of fear flowing through my body, but to some extent, I'm just observing. Part of me is going through the experience. It's like, imagine if you went into an amusement park and there is this haunted house. You wanna go in, so you jump into the cart. The cart starts going into the haunted house, and part of you, it's in the experience, getting fright and oh my gosh, and where is it gonna come from? Part of you, no, it's just a game. It's just a park. Right. It's just for fun, and you know it's not real. Although it feels very real and can be very scary, and you can feel your heart pumping, and you can feel your blood rushing, but it's not all of it. Part of you is just observing. So that's the main point of dealing with fear, not getting overwhelmed with it, not getting carried away by it.
I love it. I believe as well that it needs a little bit of practice.
Sure.
Fear always is scary.
Yeah. Fear is always scary. But yeah, so let's say you feel a fear coming up. A fear that the other person, irrational fear, because, usually it's irrational. So you feel it coming up. You stay with it as much as you can. And let's say you start hitting a limit. Ask yourself if that's really a limit, because part of us just want to jump out of the fear as fast as possible.
Right.
So just ask yourself, is that really a limit? Is that can I stay with this a bit further? And maybe it will dissolve. Maybe in the next moment it will just disappear. But if it is too much, if it is really disturbing you, then distract yourself a bit. Yeah. Give yourself a break. Do something that brings more positive energy in your life. Whether it's sports or just dancing or whatever feels that brings you joy and pleasure, because that will balance going into the fear.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Clear step-by-step process. Fernando, for someone who has no loving partner, and it's not in a sexual relationship, how can that person get into the state of connection anyway, or practice, this opening?
Yes. So the first thing, even before you practice with the other person, you have to practice with yourself. You have to open up for yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to connect with yourself. So everything that you do with the other will be more effective, let's say, if you first do with yourself. So let's say before you actually have sex with someone, you probably have masturbated by yourself a few times, and you know how it feels. You know what it's pleasurable, what's not pleasurable. You know what's happening in your body. So that will be, let's say, the second level, second stage, and then you can start opening your heart and loving yourself. And a very simple way of doing that, you can imagine. So you can bring in your mind people you love. And then after you generate some love in your heart, then you bring yourself in front of you. And then you say to that self in front of you, you say, I love you. I wish you to be happy. I accept you. I accept the things that you scared of. So you find ways to connect with you deeply, with your heart and with your love for yourself. It will be so much easier than to connect with the other person when the time comes. The same way that if you know a lot about your sexual response, it will be much easier to interact sexually with the other person when time comes.
Right. I love the idea that you just mentioned of actually projecting yourself and loving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that everyone is actually looking for more or less the same when we come to like what we can give, and basically how can I love you more, or listen to you, or connect with you deeper and be more present? Would you say everyone is more or less looking for the same, or are there any or different people will be looking for different aspects at a core level?
At the core level. At the core level, we are all looking for the same thing. We are looking for a connection. We are looking for the end of the feeling of separation. We are looking for deep connection within ourselves and everything around us. That's what all of us looking for. That's why relationships are so powerful for us. That's why sexuality is such a big thing, because in sexuality is the moment that's much easier to experience this deep connection, not with you, with yourself and the things around you. So deep down, in the core of our beings, we look for connection in the end of separation.
Wow. Thank you for that huge, beautiful answer. And I'm really curious about the fourth stage as well, and because we've talked about how to transition from the second to third stage, right? From exploring to connecting. Mm-hmm. I would like to, because I'm really curious, how do you master yourself? Masterhood. You're talking about masterhood.
Yeah.
So I would be curious to know more about that.
Okay. So again, there are different aspects, and we have to map which aspects are still on the third stage and which aspects are already close to the fourth, and then we can work with each aspect. So in the fourth stage, what starts happening, you are not only aware of your physical body and the sensations in your physical body, and then in your heart and your feelings and emotions and your love, you become aware of the deep, subtle movement of energy within your body. And that's a more subtle, refined level of awareness. You become aware of the flow of energy in yourself and when you're with the other person. And that starts to open up a bit more. And the mastery comes when you not only become aware of that movement of energy, but you can actually direct that energy. There are several traditions and schools, let's say, that teach you to somehow move that energy intentionally. We do that in yoga, for example, and pranayama and things like that. The Taoist tradition does that. In all this, the Chinese Tai Chi thing. In all these traditions, they have some level of energetic awareness and consciously moving that energy. So the mastery has to do with having such awareness of your sexual energy that you can choose when and how to direct it. You're not governed by your sexual instinct. You're not governed by your sexual drive. You choose to use it to generate more love, more connection, and more expansion. And there are a few exercises you start doing to go there. But if you try to go there with too many things locked into the first stages, you probably won't even be interested in going there. But it's almost a natural progression as you decide to go deeper and deeper in the path. So for example, in the fourth stage, orgasm is not a big deal anymore for you. You're not focused on having like that usual peak orgasm. We know that it's a build up of energy, a lot of effort, and an orgasm, and that's it. It's finished. In the fourth level, you are more interested in an orgasmic experience in the connection with the other person. So instead of having a boom at the end, you have a big expansion, pleasurable, a blissful expansion that comes as big waves, not like as a jump, a peak, just a big wave of bliss and pleasure. But to get to that point, you have to come to the understanding that orgasm is not that amazing thing you always thought it was. But if you are on the second level, yes, it is, and you have to go for it. You have to explore it, and you have to learn about it. And then if you are going to the third level, you have to learn how to experience in your whole body. Because if I tell someone that, if I tell like a 19-year-old that forget about orgasm, they will probably laugh at me. It makes no sense. They just starting. They're just starting to explore it. They still don't know what the body is capable of. They still don't know what really orgasm is.
And exploring it, it's a way to actually...
And exploring is part of the process.
Part of the process, yes.
You don't want to
skip it.
You don't want to skip it. Otherwise, you have like loose ends in your process. It's like even in any sort of or anything you're learning. If you decide, I'll skip this content, I'll jump to a more advanced content, then at some point you say, I need to go back. Yeah, it's just how it works.
Fernando, so a question that just came to me is, what happens when you are in a relationship and you start with that person and you're in the same stage, but one of them wants to explore more, like maybe deepen the connection, or maybe even going to deepening the masterhood, right? And the other one feels that he still wants to stay in the same stage or is not ready. So what's your suggestion in these situations when one person wants to keep moving in a way, explore more, and the other one is not maybe ready, or what would you say?
To an extent, I think that's a very personal decision in terms of how you navigate with your partner. What are the agreements you have? What's the level of partnership you have? How committed you are to that partnership? How committed you are to be patient? How committed you are to understand the person's movement that's different from yours. Can you see that maybe, in that sexual aspect, you are in this stage and the person is in the other stage, but in other aspects of your life, you are also in different stages, and that the person could be in a more advanced stage in some other mastery than you, and that's how you balance as a couple. So if you are in a sort of a relationship, the agreement is that we are together to grow together. And it's not about, I need to, I need to master my thing. You gotta help me, because then that's the second stage. I want to get something from you. You have to give me what I need. In the third stage, I want to support you. How can I support you? How can we support each other? How can we grow together? And all this mastery, it is good when you have someone to practice, but you also can practice with yourself. In the end, it's your own mastery of your own sexual energy. And your sexual energy is within you. It's not dependent on the other person. The other person may support you, may trigger you, may arouse you, may bring more flavor to some aspects of it, but in the end, it's your own journey. So like when I describe how can you develop the heart connection if you don't have a partner, you can develop everything without a partner.
And Fernando, when you start practicing this, when you start having more awareness in your sexual life, how does this particular aspect of our life is reflected in other aspects of our life? It could be a daily. What's the impact that having more awareness about our sexual life will have on all other areas of our lives?
So we are talking about sexuality, but we have to understand what we are talking about. So in the first stages, you see sexuality as a synonym of genitals. You see sexuality as a meaning of sexual act. Two people or more, two people having sex. That's as you see sexuality. As you expand your understanding, you start seeing sexuality as the movement of life. And then it's not only about your genitals, your heart is included. So the movement of energy in your heart is also sexuality. So when you're expressing your love, that's sexuality. It's not talking about genitals. I'm talking about this expression of life energy. So everything we do to some extent is sexuality. So sexuality can be a limited concept if you think just of sex, but sexuality is a much broader concept. It's how life works. When we are creating, when we are relating to any person, friends, colleagues, workmate, work colleague, that's all sexuality. Exchange of energy, connection, creation, creativity, that's all sexuality. So that's what happens when you move through the stages. Your sexual. So if you think of an image, initially your sexuality is confined to your pelvis. So you can imagine this sphere of energy. So all the energy is here in your pelvis, and then as you expand, the sphere also expands to include your whole body, your whole being, and everything around you. So whatever happens in terms of sexuality in the sexual act, whatever deepening, whatever changes in the intimacy, in the openness, in the flow of energy, whatever happens there, it will reflect in your whole life.
Love it. Such a great topic. Fernando, is there anything else that you would like to mention in this amazing interview?
I want to encourage people to come closer to their sexuality. Don't treat it as as something they know what that is. Step back and consider it as a totally unknown thing, no matter how long you have been exploring it. And ask yourself, how can I use this to make my life more fulfilling? How can I use this to have more energy? How can I use this to open my heart and offer more to the world and to the people around me? Start to consider your sexuality in this broader aspect, beyond the conventions of our cultural norms or taboos or guilt or things like that. Start to consider your sexuality as this beautiful, powerful life energy that can create amazing things in the world. And one little expression of it happens through your genitals. There's much more happening.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fernando. This has been really amazing, and I love how you formulated all the stages. And yeah, I'm grateful.
You're welcome. It was an amazing pleasure sharing all this. I hope people can really enjoy it.
Yes, and they're all invited to go to your website and connect with you.
Yeah,
I know you're working on Portuguese and English as well, so
most welcome.
Most welcome too. Yeah. Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you in the next chapter on happyhandle.com.